Right.
What do you want?
那么所以刚才也如你是趁着我们是的，也是要我们同意的，反正这超过了我们过去年没跟。
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. co-associates, members of the management, members of the region, and our facilitator for today. I hope we all had a good day. And please, chairman of the party, please galvanize your members for the next 5 minutes. The class starts officially in another 5 minutes. By 5:05, would begin the class. Thank you. Please call your party members. It's time for the class of the day. Thank you. See you in 5.
Edie, please, could you make Sam Sidin a co-host? Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, guys. Party chairman, please, you need to do more. The attendance is really, really low as we speak. Less than 100. Okay, let's get into the business of the day. Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. Our topic for today is advocacy and policy influencing. And our facilitator for today is a seasoned expert in this regard. The person of Mr. Busayo Murakinyo. Please pay attention while I read out his portfolio, his highly summarized portfolio. Mr. Busayo Murakinyo is an innovative development, governance, and social accountability professional with ingrained experience spanning almost a decade, working with various communities across Africa. He grew and scaled the largest social accountability movement in Africa, called Follow the Money, from Nigeria and Gambia to Cameroon, Kenya, South Sudan, Zimbabwe, Liberia, Malawi, Cape Verde, and Ghana, establishing and maintaining effective relationships with partners across policymakers, community-based groups, government, media, and the civil society that advances the development and socio-economic progress of these communities. He is a disruptive thinker and a strategic manager of people whose cutting-edge ideas on civic and government tech is changing how social innovators view sustainability within the civic and government ecosystem. Along with being a two-time TEDx speaker, he has extensive practical experience in the areas of advocacy, campaigns, grassroots mobilization, citizen engagement, capacity building, civic technology, and research. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our facilitator for today, Mr. Busayo Oluwadamilare Murakinyo. Your Lord, sir, you are highly welcome to this class. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam Sidin. Can you
Shamsuddin, Oga Busayo, the Seriki of advocacy, the Emir,
boss, no be so.
of accountability. Busayo,
You just
it's good,
accosted
I'll
me.
catch you. I've caught you today. Yes, I know now. I'll find you. So it's a pleasure. Mr. Busayo has done this multiple times with the Electoral College. You know, I can't say there is a final gentleman. I'm calling him gentleman now. I'm sure you disagree with me at the end of the class. Busayo has inspired quite a lot of things with his work. Busayo I met years ago, and I and Busayo have remained very close. His course is delicate, and I would say he's the best person I know at it. So I'm always very proud of you, even though now you now have taken the throne, and you have decided that your subjects that is to find you cannot enter again. No problem. So as the Akpabio in Electoral College, I suspend you for 6 months. That's it, bro.
Please leave my security.
My pleasure. I'm sorry.
Please.
As you leave your security, okay.
Please.
I'll allow you to plead it. But we'll recall you, Sha. This one, I know the rules. We'll recall you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You just accosted me, you know. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be with the good people at Electoral College and Polytracy. And I must say that this is the only, and I'm not saying this because our chief is here. I'm just being sincere. This is the only engagement that I take currently across the not-for-profit or the social development sector. I shut down my engagement in this sector about 2 years ago, but I can't shut down from Electoral College. So thank you for bringing me back over and over and over again. I hope I continue to add value to the team. Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. It's always a pleasure being here, court after court. Hello, Wumi. Thank you for always being on my matter. Thank you for always having me. Great. So I've been instructed to speak on effective advocacy and policy influencing. And this is something I've done for almost a decade, if not more. And I think I have some ideas. I just want to share those ideas with you, but this class is going to be super interactive. I know that I have probably about 45 minutes here or there, then another 15 minutes for questions. I hope I'm able to keep to time. If I'm not able to keep to time, I'll just, when it's 45 minutes.
Usayo is okay. You are not on time limit. Your
Okay.
class happens to be the first class after fasting. So
Okay.
Lisa probably sent you that message thinking this class will be in fasting. But now they stop fasting. So
Okay.
yeah, with my full permission, give it to them.
Okay.
You are full of energy.
No, we'll still keep to time. We'll still keep to time.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that freedom. Okay, so let's drill it. The next slide you're going to see are going to be a few pictures. Please, I need you to use your chat box. Few things I need from you. I want to know who these persons are. If you know them, type it out. I just need about 3-4 people to, speak back at me when I ask the question. So I may not be able to see all the chats. If we can try to suspend the introductions for now, we can continue the introductions later so that I'm able to see the chats actually. Not because I don't want you to introduce yourself, but I need to see the chats. I know. Okay, how many of us know this person on our screen? What's his name? Put it in the chat box quickly. What's his name? Okay. Awesome. I like this loud, very dark man. Interesting. I mean, it means you know him. Okay. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows him. Interesting. So maybe 2 people. Turn on your mic. Tell me what you know about him. Maybe just 2 people. You can turn on your mic and speak. Just 2 people. I need 2 people. Do we have to take permission to talk?
Yes. So they are muted. So they are muted entirely.
Oh, everybody's muted.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So just to ensure that there's no noise, so they can just raise up their hands. The admin will pick them.
All
So
right.
once they raise their hands, the admin will pick them very well.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. 2 people, admin.
I see I'm in your class. Sir.
I'm intimidated.
I'm in your class. I'm learning too.
Can you leave the class, please? Thanks for being here, though. Okay, let's give 2 people the opportunity. Go ahead, please.
I've had Christopher to unmute.
Yeah. Okay, unmute, speak. Very quickly.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Christopher, please unmute. Christopher Ejiofor.
If he's not ready, let's get someone else who is eager to say something. Yeah.
Show your ear, Oladipupo, please. Show your ear, Oladipupo.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. This man in person, in my own opinion, is a kind of controversial man that's been loved by, let me say, Gen Z set of people who just believe whatever he says is right. That is my own brief opinion about him.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's get another opinion quickly.
Olaoye, please. Olaoye Oyeleye.
Olaoluwa Oyeleye.
Thank
you very
Ola,
much.
go ahead,
Yes,
please.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, sir. So, very dark man, I got to know him when he had issues. Will I say issues? He popularized the skincare. This would I don't pass through normal process now. Producing
Yeah.
skincare products that tag NAFDAC. Yes, I knew him through that. I liked it. Then going forward, he jumped into every societal issues. Those he has no idea about. He just want to do everything for cloud, claiming activists. Not like all his actions are bad, but there are limits to everything. So that's what I
Absolutely.
know about him. So he's a nuisance for like
Oh, wow. I was below the belt. Okay, great. Let's see another person. How many of us know the person I just added on the screen? Keep it in the chat box. The chat box. Who's the next person? Oh, okay. Great. Sowore. Some people call him Sowore. You know, Omoyele Sowore. Absolutely. Two other people. What do you think about Sowore? Let's take it from there. What do you think about him?
Olonishawo, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Olonishawo Damola.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi. Good evening. Go ahead.
Omoyele Sowore is an activist, and he took his activism to national and is an advocate of good governance. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Another person, another opinion.
Mr. Abusaya, please, with your permission, I'm trying to prioritize a female.
Yes, please. No, I mean, we must ensure that nobody's marginalized.
Yet to see if any one of them raise a hand. Female, please. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Adam Kadri, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening, Adam. Go ahead, please.
Omoyele Sowore is a former presidential candidate, and since then he has been at the front of our camera almost every time, constituting some sensible things at times, constituting nuisance. So
amazing. I like that. Below the belt. Interesting. Okay. Okay, let's take it a bit further. I just added someone on the screen. How many of us know that person? Absolutely. All right. So two people.
The females, please. Where are you at?
Maybe they don't know these people, you know.
Right.
I should have added Natasha. I was just joking.
No, don't, you know, if you add Natasha, they will come out. But I also believe that if you added if you added May Edochie's wife, May Edochie, they'll know who it is. No, I don't know. You know, we always talk about inclusion, and you know, when you try to pull women in, I've always had this issue with girls in the electoral college. They just want to stay. Yeah, they just want to stay back. And you know, we're trying to encourage you. We're not spotlighting you or trying to. We even want you to say things that are wrong so we can help. You understand if we can. But I don't know what it is. And you know, it's kind of whenever we try to pull them out, they always. I think their next the election or something, I will insist they only have female candidates. That debate will be strictly female or something, so that we could see something, you know, that is forced. Because we're trying to bring you guys out. We're trying to ensure, you know, situations like Natasha doesn't happen again, or when it happens, you know, they understand the articles of the Senate, no punches to Natasha. But we need more women participating. That's how more women will perform better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay,
two people.
I think I have a female now.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Let's go.
Margaret Amodu. You are welcome.
Yes.
Please.
Good evening.
Hi, Margaret. Good evening.
Please speak for your gender.
So
thank you.
I'm not speaking or defending anybody. We're entitled to whatever it is we feel like doing. So I understand. ED apologies. I'm apologizing on behalf of all the females.
Yeah, let's go. We don't have time. 20 minutes already.
I know the person in the photo. He's known as Fela. He was a musician. And then he uses the lyrics of his music to advocate for human rights and then talk about injustice happening within the country as at then. So that's what I can relate to the image or the person of Fela. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely beautiful.
Wait,
you.
Margaret, are you still there? Margaret, are you still there?
I'm here, Edie.
Okay, Margaret, do you know what you've earned now? I'm giving you 2 automatic attendances. Lisa, take note. And I'm giving 5 points to whichever party Margaret is in automatically. I have that power. So the 5 goes to you, and you see you came out and look at what you've done for your party. So thank you very much, Margaret, on behalf of
Thank you very much, Edie.
Thank you also.
Margaret.
Congratulations, Margaret. Beautiful. One more person, 5 points for your party. If you come out, one more person, the last person I want to hear the last person's voice. Who is this person? What does this image mean to you?
I'll let you know, Stephen.
Stephen, go ahead. Let's just give anybody the mic. Let's just give anybody the mic.
Okay, I've unmuted. Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
Okay,
go
Stephen
ahead.
is there.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I was giving permission. Oh, okay.
This image represents for me 1, freedom, 2, boldness, then of course songs.
Absolutely.
Fela has been somebody, I think his music emanated from his from what he went through in the hands of the military during the Obasanjo rule. And if you begin to listen to his lyrics from that time, it has been anti-government. But that man has succeeded in opening the eyes of people to what the government is and was. So for me, Fela represents a lot of things. Of course, you might say, well, this man is he takes a lot of drink, he takes a lot of this, he does that, he humanizes. But now let us see him as a person who has chosen a lifestyle and see what his impact has brought to society. I think so. Fela meant a lot to Nigeria.
Perfect. Thank you,
and
Stephen.
To Nigerians, and of course myself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen. So spot on, guys. I mean, I like the fact that I can see some people. So guys, those of you who cannot speak, please drop it in the chat box before I leave the screen. I just wanted to read something. Someone says, Sowore isn't an advocate of good governance, rather another controversial man that lost the grip of societal facts and constructive criticism. Interesting. What do you define as constructive criticism? I'm trying to understand. That word is a very big word. I'm trying to understand constructive criticism, because people throw these words around these days. Sometimes it sounds really sophisticated. Someone said the image of activism and advocacy. Another person said the 3 images represent the voice, the people, freedom. I didn't see it from that perspective. Interesting. Someone says, I love Fela, but not cool with the fact that he smokes cannabis in public as against the government laws. Interesting. I wish we still had fearless musicians like him. He was jailed for more than 50 times. Absolutely. The voice different means medium to advocate for justice. Okay, I mean, we get the entire idea. Very dark man, Martin Sotse, I think, Omoyele Sowore and Fela Anikulapo Kuti. One of the things that you cannot take away from these 3 people is that they have their voice and they own their voice, no matter how you feel. I like this. Fela is a symbol of struggle, freedom, and comradeship. He's a national hero. He's a modern day Brekete. Interesting. These 3 guys have something in common: challenging abnormalities. Let's forget their personal lives. Interesting. Okay, great. Okay, let's dive in. I think there's a general consensus in the room that these people, speak. Some people say they're activists. Some people say they are not activists. Someone says I should take Very Dark Man out. No, I won't take Very Dark Man out. If you are taking your session, take him out. I was just kidding there. But I mean, brilliant thoughts, brilliant submissions. Now, in this session that we're going to have, please, I want you to divorce yourself. Someone says, where's Malema? Malema is my guy, you know, because I'm very invested in the politics of South Africa. Malema is my guy. I like him so much. And I like the EFF party so much. And one of the things about the EFF party that you need to know is the fact that they have gone against the norm and they are carving out a niche for themselves. Those of you on this call, please study a bit of South African politics. You would enjoy it better than what we have in Nigeria, by the way. Someone says VDM is no activist. You know, awesome. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. So let's dive in. But please keep your biases away, because I may question some of your biases, and I just want us to be able to learn and enjoy ourselves. Okay, let's move. I have some hashtags. First hashtag, EndSARS. Second hashtag, Revolution Now. Third hashtag, end bad governance protests. The next point that is not a hashtag is treason. What does these things represent to us? Let's keep it in the chat box. Nobody's talking again. What does this mean to us? Absolutely. I'm seeing people loving Julius Malema, loving Patrice Lumumba. Interesting. I like the fact that in the room we're having people that are thinking of out of Nigeria. Yeah, EndSARS, Revolution Now, end bad governance, protest, treason. It means they are gonna learn the hard way. Their common denominator is they're all fearless. Amazing. We've moved past that. I'm talking about the slide on the screen now. Talking about the slide on the screen now, guys. What does it, when you see hashtag EndSARS, when you see hashtag Revolution Now, when you see hashtag end bad governance protest, what does it communicate to you? Social behavioral change, advocacy. Someone says advocacy. I'm looking for more people. Represent struggle, death, wanton killing, advocacy, revolution. Interesting. A common denominator I would say is that all of this has happened in our immediate past history. EndSARS 2020. Before EndSARS, there was the Occupy Nigeria protest in 2015. 2012. You know, there was the End SARS in 2020, 5 years after there was Revolution Now, and I think I think the Revolution Now started either before or after, you know, after the EndSARS, you know, protests. The common denominator is the fact that people were either arrested for what was called treason, right? People were arrested for what was called treason. I will not dive into treason today, because that's not my forte. That's not what I've been asked to do. But I'll start from advocacy, which is the core. You know, all of the questions. Someone is talking about Stella Nyazi. I know she's now in exile in Germany. Amazing Ugandan, doing solid work. So okay, great guys. So let's leave the chat box now and let's come back to the class. First thing I have here is advocacy. So the first question I always want to ask is, what is advocacy? What is advocacy? When you see advocacy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? When you see advocacy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I like the fact that we're calling a whole lot of people that we think are advocating, which is beautiful. When you see the word advocacy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Speaking up, I like that. To use your voice rightly. Struggle for change. It involves strategic actions taken to influence the decision makers and public opinion to create meaningful change. Brilliant. Social cry comes to mind when I see the word advocacy. Amazing. Mobilization for action. Brilliant. I think some of you should even be taking this session. Advocacy means championing a cause, because you know all of these things already. And it gives me some hope that I'm not going to be just talking over your head. Okay, right. So I have few definitions I'm just going to share out of a whole lot of definitions. This definition speaks to challenging those in authority to make decisions and change policies, programs, and plans in such a way that they are fair. Fairness. Secondly, we talk about equitable, which comes from the word equity, and favor the disadvantaged and powerless people in the community, challenging those in authority. It is challenging those in authority, calling them out, asking questions, challenging them. But you're not just challenging them because you want to or you feel like or because you have the voice. You're doing that, to change policies or change government programs, and the plans government have in such a way that are fair and equitable. So you are challenging them for a reason. Someone says, well, constructive approach. I mean, I enjoy the terms you guys are using. It's brilliant, and we're going to handle it. Let's look at another definition quickly. Advocacy is when you speak up or draw the attention of the community about an issue or problem that affects the community. So this means I draw the attention of people living within a community. Now, a community does not mean your village or where you come from. It means people you share either the same space, the same system, you share something in common with. So it is speaking up or drawing the attention of communities about an issue or a problem, that affects the community, causing public debate and finding solutions that leads to the change in existing bad situation. So it's when you either speak up or you draw the attention of people to an issue or a problem. So it means that sometimes the community may not even understand there's an issue. It may be subtle. The community may not understand that, the fact that Lagos is stinking or Lagos smells, is affecting their health, right? So when Raya comes out, to talk about her frustration and she says Lagos is stinking, people do not understand what she means. And so some people do not even believe that Lagos is stinking. So Raya takes her voice and she says, Lagos is stinking. So she's drawing the attention of people or the community to an issue or problem that affects them. And like I said, sometimes they don't even understand that those problems affect them. Those are the kind of situations we're talking about. Which is another interesting definition I like so much. But this definition is one that also interests me. It speaks to taking action so that those in the position of power, responsibility change their negative attitude and behavior about the poor and disadvantaged people and start treating them as human beings. Taking action so that those in position of power or responsibility change their negative attitude. Taking action, doing something about it. Some people sang about it. Some people went to TV stations about it. Some people turned on their ring lights about it. People are taking actions on a daily basis to be able, to speak to those in the position of power or responsibility, to change their negative attitude and behavior about the poor and disadvantaged people and start treating them as human beings. So a fella, for example, spent a large chunk of his musical career speaking, he took an action, he was singing about it. That was the best way he could go about it. Omoyele Sowore, takes up the responsibility of jumping from one TV station to another, talking about it. very dark man who most of you, some of you do not like, has taken action and he's doing something. He's talking about it. He's talking to those in the position of power. Now, so like I said, even if you do not like any of these guys for whatsoever reason, their personal, the way they go about it, you cannot discountenance the fact that these guys and many other people are taking action. So the question I want to ask you is, you that is listening to me, why are you not taking action? Not everybody is going to be a singer. Not everybody is going to be the executive director of Electoral College who is going to go from Channels TV to Arise TV analyzing situations using his voice. He's taking action. In fact, the fact that you're here today means that he took an action that has instigated you to come on this on polytracy, and you're learning. His action is the reason why I'm here speaking to you today. So whether you like it or not, people are taking actions in the best way that they can. Some of you may not have the oratory of Mr. Kunle Lawal. Some of you may not have the musical prowess of Fela Anikulapo Kuti. Some of you may not have the courage or the tenacity of a Sowore who was taken to prison and jailed for treason. Some of you may not have the ability to buy a ring light or buy a singlet and sit down and face the camera and you tell people you're going to learn the hard way. Some of you may not have that capacity, but in your own unique way, you have a voice that you can use. You can take action. The question I'm asking you is, what action have you been taking? What action would you begin to take? What action do you need to take to be able to speak to those or communicate to those in power or those with the responsibility to change their negative attitude and behavior about the poor and disadvantaged people? It's very important, guys, that I come from this perspective, and so that we balance it and balance these narratives out. So I'm not just speaking over your heads, I'm speaking to you so that you take action, because other people have taken action, you know, and I mean, there's no better time for you to take action than now, when Nigeria is facing a very serious situation where the dignity of the human being is taken away gradually, where we see people being burnt, where you see people being, you know, being maimed alive, you see people being kidnapped. You know, you don't have to wait until it affects you. You have to speak about it. You have to have conversations about it. You have to begin to speak. Use whatever abilities you have to drive the conversation, because the more we speak, the more that will galvanize our voices together. And whether you call them advocates, you call them activists, whatever name you choose to call them, they are able to do something, and you too can be able to do something. Now, this other definition is beautiful. I like it because it's more scientific. Developing proactive strategies. Now, this is where the problem comes, and I'll explain. Developing proactive strategies and tactics aimed at building power, clout, and energy of the community members so that they are able to claim their rights and entitlements. Developing proactive strategies. An example of a strategy that is very, very, you know, tactical is what the good people at Electoral College has done, you know, with polytracy. It is strategic. You are not the first cohort, you won't be the last cohort. It is strategic because Kunle Lawal and the team have had an understanding that we cannot just tweet about it alone. We have to now begin to teach people these things so that people are able to learn, so that they're able to run with them. So over 155 of you are listening to me now because someone took a proactive, you know, strategic and tactical way of, you know, building the power. Knowledge is power, guys. You're having knowledge, you're gaining power. You're building your clout because knowledge gives you an understanding that is higher than every other person's understanding. It's giving the energy, the pump, the drive you have currently, or the drive you're going to have after now. It's very important, so that people are able to claim their rights and entitlements. It is the right of a Nigerian to live a peaceful life in his community without running away, without sleeping with one eye closed, without, going hungry. It is the unalienable human rights. It's when you go back to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, one of the things that is important is the dignity of human persons. So advocacy is when you're able to develop these proactive strategies. So do we call Kunle Lawal an advocate? Yes, he's an advocate. Do we call you an advocate? The question we need to ask you is, what have you developed? What are you developing? Whose voice are you developing? It's very important that you keep these things at the back of your mind, so that would make progress. My next slide speaks to something very important. It says when to advocate. Somebody may be asking me, okay, Busai, I've heard you. When do we now advocate? Well, I'm here to tell you when to advocate. It's very simple. When there are problems that affect disadvantaged communities. Are there problems affecting Nigeria today? Are there problems affecting your local community? Are there problems affecting your estate, where you live, or your street? Are there problems affecting a group of people around you? Are there problems affecting wherever you're coming from? The moment you understand that there are problems that affect disadvantaged communities, it's a good time to begin an advocacy. The second is when there are policy implementation gaps. One of the policy of this government, current government, that took everybody unawares is the total removal of petroleum subsidy. Remember that in 2012, the same political party, when the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, removed petroleum subsidy, they went on the street and we all protested. We all occupied Nigeria. No, occupied Nigeria, then there was Save Nigerian Group. I remember everybody went to the street saying no to petroleum subsidy. 2012. Many years after, the same people who protested, vigorously on the street, calling out that same president, removed the same subsidy he wanted to remove 12 years ago. Now, when there are policy implementation gaps, it's a good time to advocate. It's a very good time to advocate. Someone just said something. He says the ED is an advocate of political knowledge and orientation of how to go about a clean, sustainable governance and democracy. You can say that again, right? Absolutely valid. Now, when you notice that there are policy implementation gaps, it's a good time to advocate. Whilst the fact that we cannot continue to pay petroleum subsidy was a valid point, the fact that we cannot adequately sit down and track the amount of petroleum products the amount of crude we're actually taking out from the country becomes a problem. It is the responsibility of the government to ensure that subsidized products do not leave the shores of the country. And that was one of the arguments some of us were making, even as high as the World Bank, when we had meetings with the World Bank. And the World Bank was talking about the deregulation and says, Nigeria needs to remove petroleum subsidy. One of the questions I kept asking is, why is subsidy wrong? Governments all over the world pay subsidy. The problem was not subsidy. The problem was the corruption in subsidy. So if you are not able to take away the corruption in subsidy, that means you are an incompetent government that has failed. Now, the problem we're having currently is that a few years ago, 15,000 naira could fill my fuel tank. But now, 100K would probably not even do the job. Policy implementation gaps is a good time to advocate. Another good time to advocate is when there's a blockage in our programs, right? We say today that we want to reach out to, 10,000 young people on polytracy, and the government wakes up tomorrow and says, we're shutting down Zoom, or we're shutting down social media, or we're shutting down WhatsApp. It's a good time to advocate. In this same country of Nigeria, a certain government shut down Twitter for many months. And these were the same people that came to power riding on the backs of social media. A good time to advocate is when you find the link between local, national, regional, or international concerns. Someone asked me, what's an example of this local, national, regional, international concerns? I'll give you education, for example. Education, basic education should have been the natural preserve of the local government. And so across local governments in Nigeria, you have what is called LGEA, Local Government Education Authority. The local government had failed in that responsibility, and the state government had also failed. So Obasanjo, came up with something called universal basic education because he didn't want children not to go to school. So the federal government became very active, in basic education, which is actually not supposed to be so, right? And from 2004 till this very moment I'm speaking with you guys, we have been on universal basic education. But guess what? We have over 20 million out of school children, the singular highest, probably one of the highest in the world. There's a link between the local government failure to the national failure to the regional failure, and it has become an international concern. And so when banditry and insurgency is taking over, the country, you can trace it. You can trace where it's coming from. A populace that is not educated, a populace that is not enlightened will definitely continue to thrive, with every antisocial behavior. What a few years ago, I'm talking about in 2014, I was somewhere in the middle, I was somewhere in the Northeast, and I looked at it and I said that in the next 10 years, we'll still be battling insurgencies. In fact, we'll be battling what is worse than insurgencies. Many years after, we're still facing the same thing. Why? You have people who are not educated. And someone will want to argue, does education change anything? Yes, education changes a whole lot of things. I am too educated to become a bandit. I am too educated. I'm too educated to become a bandit. Education refines you, it opens you up to possibilities. A good time to also advocate is when you know the root cause of a problem. When you understand that the problem is not actually what is being talked about, but the problem are the things that people naturally do not see. That's a good time to advocate. You think that the problem, of disunity, quote and unquote, or the problem of ethnicity in Nigeria, when you see people, insult or curse themselves or their religion or whatever on Twitter, you think that's the problem. No, that's not the problem. The problem is the fact that politicians have decided to use these differences to continue to divide us, because they know that the moment we begin to speak in one voice, would become a formidable force. That is the root cause of the problem, right? A good time to advocate is when you want to demand for the rights of people. We cannot overemphasize this. When we need to demand for the rights of the people, we get into the mode of advocacy. So by this, if you've ever done any of this, if you want to do any of this, if you think you're going to do any of this, then you can also be an advocate. An advocate is not an exclusive preserve of few people. No, anybody can be an advocate. And so if you followed my journey from when I started till now, you'd realize that advocacy is not the birthright of anybody. Advocacy, nobody was born and says, I've given birth to you, you are going to be. Nobody was born like that. Advocacy is something that anyone can be a part of. In fact, you must have been a part of an advocacy somewhere, sometime in history or sometime in the future. It's very important for us to understand this. I always like teaching about, targets of advocacy, because sometimes you know, this is now where the difference comes in being tactful and being skillful. And that's why you're taking this session today, so that you are able to understand that advocacy, though, you know, broad, advocacy is also a body of knowledge, that there are strategies, there are tactics that you can use. And for those people who are not using these tactics, it doesn't still change the fact that they are not doing advocacy. They may not be doing it in the right way, or they may not be doing it in the way you think they should be doing it. It doesn't invalidate the advocacy. You may not like what they are saying. You may not like the fact that Fela Anikulapo Kuti, you know, was dancing with women that were not fully dressed. You may not like the fact that someone said, you know, he was taking cannabis and it's against the laws of the country. You may not like that fact, but you cannot change the fact that he was doing what he understood or what he believed in, and he lived that essence, you know, out there. Some of you may not like the fact that Sowore is on your TV screen. You may not like the fact that he calls out the government. You may not like the fact that he calls the police IGP an illegal IGP. You may not like any of those things, but you cannot invalidate his advocacy. It is his advocacy. It's what he believes. It's his message. So there's no jury anywhere that will sit and say your advocacy is not real advocacy. You know, anybody can take up that guard of an advocate and speak about issues that concerns them, right? One of the things I'm also trying to do is to disabuse your mind and to make you understand that it's not about the eloquence. It's not about, you know, whatever tactics or methodology, and I'll show you some of those methodologies. It's not about any of those. It's about the fact that, number one, you understand your message, you believe in your message, and you pass it in the most, you know, comfortable way. Can people morph? Can people change? Can people do things better? Yes. And that's why Electoral College is saying you must learn advocacy so that you can do it better. It's not saying you need to learn so that you go criticize another person. No, it's saying you need to learn so that you can show people the better way of going about it. Absolutely. So let's look at targets of advocacy. A target is a person, right, or an individual in the position of authority at any level, you know, who can give you the decision you want. So your advocacy must now be targeted for it to carry weight. And in understanding these targets, there are two types of targets. There's what we call the primary target. That is the person or individual in the position of power or authority, you know, and the person holds the ability to make that decision you want them to make. So when people, for example, stand up and call on the president sometimes, it's not really because they are wrong. It's not because they do not see the governors there. It's not because they do not see the local government chairman there. No, that's not the reason. The reason is because they know that the buck probably stops at the table of the president. Or when people call out the governor, some people say, don't call out the governor, call out the commissioner. I mean, the commissioner is an appointee. I didn't vote for the commissioner. I voted for the governor, right? And so I should be able to call him out when there are things that I need to change, right? So a primary target is that person that has the power to make the decision, to make that ultimate decision. So when you say, I want to advocate for a particular thing or for a group of people, who are you targeting? Who's your advocacy targeting? Is it targeting the persons that have the power, or it's targeting people who, you know, so a funny experience could be that, you know, you want to do an advocacy now, you know, probably because you cannot afford food to eat, and you are targeting your fellow neighbor, you know, who does not have food to eat. It's a wrong target. If you want to target someone who is going to provide food, you are definitely going to target the people you voted for across, you know, various levels. It could be from, you know, your House of Assembly or your local, you start from your council ward, you know, to your local government or to your House of Assembly, you know, probably to the governor or to the parliament, you know, the national parliament, you know, or the president, depending on the issue you are tackling. Very, very important. because the context must be put in. Now, your secondary target is a person who is not the ultimate decision maker, but has influence on the chain of decision making. So, for example, now, if I have an advocacy to our boss, to the ED, and I said, ED, I want you to, come to Kanu in the next 1 hour, Yes, ED is the primary target. He's the one I need, but I can't say, ED is not responding. Let me call his wife. And I say, Madam ED, we need Ogao. He needs to come to Kanu now. Now, the target is the ED. The primary target is the ED. But because we know that there's someone who the ED would not say no to, who is his wife, the wife of the ED, it becomes the secondary target, not because she has the highest decision making, but because she can influence the decision of the ED to get on the next flight and go to Kanu. So, in your advocacy, you must be able to understand who your primary targets are and who your secondary targets are. The benefit of your secondary targets are those people who can be able to amplify your voice in the room where your primary targets are. And so, for example, we've seen situations where, let me use the Nnamdi Kanu situation. We've seen situations where a group of elders from the south, from the southeast, has gone to, visit various presidents from Buhari to the current president, to say, we're speaking on behalf of our son. It is not Nnamdi Kanu that is doing the speaking. There are people speaking on his behalf. Now, when Dele Farotimi was arrested, how many of us know Dele Farotimi? When he was arrested by, the San, one of the things that we saw was the fact that people started engaging with various people. Some people who had access, to the San, were able to meet with the San and say, we need to settle this somehow. Now, the point I'm trying to make is the fact that in your advocacy, you must first of all understand. Because if you don't have this understanding, you continue to shoot blanks. You must understand who the primary target is, the person whose ability it is to make a decision. And you must be able to also target those people who can influence that person to make the decision. It's very, 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 very important. Very, very, very important, guys. I cannot overemphasize this. This is part of the tact and skill, of being an amazing advocate. And these are the benefits you get when you join classes like that. So we've spoken about advocacy. Let's do a bit into policy influencing, then I wrap it up and we take questions. So let's look at policy influencing, and this is where I'm actually going, because this is the core. Advocacy speaks to the processes, what it's like, the form, but policy influencing is targeted, is direct. So we say policy influencing is the deliberate and systematic process of influencing the policies, number one, practices, number two, and the behavior of different targeted stakeholders. Remember, I just showed you guys what the targets, of an advocacy is, the primary and the secondary target. Now, so we're saying policy influencing, I take it again, it is the deliberate, look at the words that are in white font. It is the deliberate and systematic process of influencing the policies, practices, and behaviors of different targeted stakeholders that are most influential on an issue involving beneficiaries, the people who are going to be the beneficiaries of this influencing that you're doing, and increasing their ownership and capacity on the issue. Few words are very important, and these are the words in white: deliberate, systematic, policies, practices, the behavior of these targeted stakes. So you are now saying, I have identified the ED as the primary stakeholder. I have identified the wife of the ED as a secondary stakeholder. They are my targets in this advocacy. You understand? Now, the both of them are very influential on this issue. Now, what I want is for the ED to come to Kanu immediately, right? The ED is not giving me a response, so I have reached out to his wife. The reason is because I want to change something there. I want to change, his indifference to this trip so that he can be able to immediately get on this trip. So I am doing everything. It's deliberate, it's systematic. How do I know that I need to speak to his wife? Probably because I've had an information that there's nothing the wife of the ED says that the ED does not do. Right. So even if he's not listening to me, even if he's not picking my call, let me speak to Madame, because I know that even though she would not change, I don't need her to come to Kano. I need the ED to come to Kano. So she has the magic wand to get the ED to Kano. So I have become deliberate, understanding and analyzing the situation. I have become systematic. I have seen the process. I have seen that if she speaks to him, he's going to be able to understand. So I am now using her to influence the policy and influence the behavior of the ED so that the next time I call him, he would pick his call, because his wife had already told him that Busaya is going to call you and I need you to pick his call and we need you to come to Kano. I hope this is explanatory enough. If it's not, I will take questions at the end. So one of the few things I like doing is to do what I call the comparative analysis between what advocacy, is and what policy influencing is, and how these things work together. And I'm going to be faster here. Let me take it back. I'm going to be a bit faster here. Now, advocacy, as it were, can be broad. I mean, it could take any form, it could take any dimension. Policy influencing can also take any form or any direction, but policy influencing is more deliberate, it's more targeted, it's more systematic. It's not just about me coming to talk about the issues. It's more of what Kule Lawal did when for so many years, he had the burden for Nigeria and he was just talking about it. I want young people to understand what is going on. He was just talking about it. But he now took a more deliberate approach and say, oh, if I create what is called electoral college and I create what is called politeracy, I can be able to get over 10,000 people in the next 5 years to become more politically literate, so that they can now be able to do what I am doing in my own corner, that, sometimes I shout and nobody hears me. But if 1,000 people, 10,000 people shout, everybody would hear them, right? So he became more deliberate in his attempt. And that's the difference between a certain level of advocacy, and a certain level of policy influencing. In this case, policy influencing is saying to the government, I want to not just talk about the issue, but I want to be able to influence the policies that you make, to ensure that the lives of people, the lives of citizens, the lives of people in my community are better. So that level of deliberateness is what policy influencing has, the edge policy influencing has, over advocacy. Policy influencing is delicate because it has to deal with a whole lot of information. You must know about the problem. You must understand the problem. The problem is something that you probably have understood through research. You've probably gathered data. You've done your homework. I have seen situations where people try to influence government policies and they just do what random advocates do, which is just talk. Now, another difference between advocacy and policy influencing is it is facts-driven. It is data-driven. Yes, it is data-driven. There is a president, Peter Obi, for example, in the last election, comes up with data. And he says, this is what is happening in Bangladesh. This is what is happening in Taiwan. This is what is happening in this place. The current government that we have, when they're on their campaign trail, I watched the clip and I felt terrible. When, you know, and so many of you must have seen this video, and I'm going to call the names. I think Tinubu was somewhere in Edo State, you know, on the campaign trail, and he says, "Now statistics we go chop," and everybody on the campaign trail was laughing, and Festus Kayamo was laughing as if, you know, that was the best thing out after a gigi bread. You know, he was excited about it. Oh, it was in Delta. Thank you so much for that. You know, and he said, "Now statistics we go chop," but now we are eating statistics. 20 million out of school children, multi-dimensional poverty. That is data. The government that was not, the party that was not interested in statistics or data is currently the party, you know, that is trying to influence the National Bureau of Statistics, you know, to tamper with the unemployment figures. So they are beginning to understand that data is very important, because there's no how you can influence policies without understanding the core of policies. So those of you who wants to just leave the cadre of being a random advocate, you know, I encourage you to begin to talk, to use your voice to, you know, get your power to begin to, if you want to leave that random advocacy, you have to climb to that level where you become a master in data, in the knowledge, in the information of what you have. It's very important, right? I cannot overemphasize this, guys, because you cannot really drive policy influencing without that. So let's look at some principles of policy influencing with the acronym called CLASP. C stands for credibility. Why would people trust you? So when people say that, you know, this person is not an advocate, this person, I don't care about that. What I care about is credibility. Why would people trust you? Why? Why should we trust you? The moment you do not have, you're not a credible person, you can never be trusted. And that's why, for example, when some politicians begins to speak in Nigeria, I look at myself and I say, wow, you have the nerves to talk, even you, you know, just imagine if James Ibori today wakes up and he says, you know, I'm advocating for good governance. Why should I trust you? Why should I trust you? Your hand has been caught in the cookie jar. You've gone to jail for corruption. Why should I trust you? So it's important that as policy influencers, you need to ensure that your integrity is high up there. The second thing is legitimacy. Who or what gives you the right to interfere? It's going to be foolhardy for you now to go to Benin. You know, you go to Benin and you'd say you want to talk about an issue that is happening. But what concerns you with Cotonou? What concerns you with Niger? You gain your legitimacy from the fact that you're first of all a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You gain your legitimacy if you're, I mean, so for sometimes I joke and I say, see, I pay taxes, so I have a, you know, you can, it's my legitimacy. I was doing some, you know, deep work sometimes in Kogi State. I think that was 2019. And someone was asking me, are you from Kogi? What gives you the right to talk about the issues in Kogi? And I looked at him and I laughed. And I said, what the federal government shares as federal location that covers Kogi State, I contribute to it. Right? So it's important you understand your legitimacy, because people are going to question your legitimacy. What is your own self? I've seen people on Twitter says, what must you always talk? What is your business? It is my business, because we are suffering it together. You know, the A stands for accountability, transparency towards deciders and constituency. How accountable are you? How accountable are you? Some people during the NSAS protest, they raised money. We didn't see the money. They didn't give account of the money. Tomorrow, they now wake up and want to talk again. You don't have accountability. You are wasting our time. And in fact, the government is even more excited when they see people that are not accountable, because they can just use something to, rope you in. And so when you see intelligent people get into government and it begins to feel like they lost their voice, know that someone is roping them somewhere, or someone probably has something against them somewhere. There's a skeleton in some cupboard, somewhere. I'm seeing some charts I don't want to go into, so that we'll make progress. So S, service. Understand that your advocacy is a service. Your policy influencing is a service. How you being helpful. Sometimes the problem was getting solved before you came in. Or advocate, the problem was actually getting solved. You came in and you messed everything up. And that's why intelligence, tact, strategy, must be high up there when you want to influence government policies. It must be high, very high up there. The P stands for power. I cannot overemphasize power. What is your power base and how do you use it? Do you join forces? Are you collaborative? Are you an authority in your field? Knowledge is power. Remember, I told us when we started, knowledge is power. How much knowledge do you have? What is your expertise? There are some people, when they talk, I shut up and listen, because I don't know what they are talking about. I want to learn. There are some people, and you now see some people, they don't know anything, but they have the loudest voices. And so when I see some people that are just at the peripherals of advocacy, I'm not judging them. But when I see them or when I listen to them, sometimes I can't connect. I'm like, bro, you're just loud. You need to come to Polytracy and learn. You need to come to Polytracy and learn, so that I know you have the power, you have the numbers, you have the social media following, but you need to understand the deeper dimensions. You need to have knowledge so that your advocacy would become deeper than what it already is. Note, I didn't condemn anybody. I would never condemn anybody's advocacy. But I'm saying at every level of advocacy that you are, there's something you need to do that makes you a better advocate. And it must be deliberate. You must learn. You must definitely learn. If I'm interested in the medical field, for example, I have to immerse myself in the medical field. I have to understand the terminologies. I cannot be talking about medicine and I'm talking about, and I'm using pedestrian languages, so I don't know what I'm doing. That's going to be ridiculous. You'll not want to listen to me again. Those of you that have been on this call for the past 1 hour, the past 1 hour now, if I'm not making sense, you'd have probably zoned off, right? You have to know. You have to have the knowledge. Knowledge gives you power. Now, one of the things that is also most important is you have to believe in your message. Now, those of you who want to be politically correct, this is where I have a problem with you. In the 2023 elections, there was a guy who was speaking for the PDP, very vocal, and the guy said, and I quote, "If when you join APC, you lose the part of your brain that you used to think," I think somewhere around that line. A few months after the election, the guy is back in the APC. What is he saying? You do not even believe in your message. So there's a clear difference between, being a politician and being an advocate or being a policy influencer. I am not saying politicians cannot advocate. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that your messaging must be consistent. Your messaging must be consistent. In this era where the internet does not forget, your messaging must be consistent. Must be very consistent. So those of you who are quick to shout, those of you who are quick to talk, you are quick to tweet, think before you tweet. Ask yourself, if I make this tweet in the next 5 years, will my messaging still be consistent? Because all of these things are going to check your credibility. It's going to check your accountability. And if you do not have this core element, it will be difficult for you to become a better advocate and a better policy influencer. We just need to go through your feed and we see, and that's why, those of us who are, young and social media savvy, you have to be very careful, right? Because it's going to be used against you. No, social media FBI. They are terrible people. They are sharper than the CIA and FBI and KGB and put together. They will dig it out, you know. When you criticized, what is it called? When you criticize someone and tomorrow you start praising the person again. You know, I saw a very funny tweet of Ben Bruce, you know, when he was talking about the current Senate president, and you know, they just put tweets of him when he was castigating the same guy, and I'm like, you know, we just have to be careful, right? We just have to be very, very careful. Yeah, we just have to be very, very careful. So let's look at some advocacy approach, and this is what is now going to make you understand the beat of everything we have been saying. If the goal for you is to win, because in an advocacy, you should have a target. You should know what you want to get out of it, right? You have a target. You should know what success means to you. It's very important. So we have what is called the low profile advocacy, right? This is the quiet negotiation where you share information. You meet civil servants. You know, you're actually speaking to them. See, you can do these things better. You can change these things. You know, it's low profile. It's quiet. You know, you're even shaking hands. You are laughing. You know, you're drinking water. You know, you're doing all of those things. Maybe it didn't work. You know, so okay, let's take it a step higher. You go to the medium profile, right? You're still negotiating. You know, you are now beginning to give public briefs. You're now beginning to go to the media. You know, the low profile, you didn't need to go to the media. You're just saying to her, you know, this is a problem. You know, our children need to go back to school. You know, this is a big problem. But they didn't listen. So you took it a step higher, and you're now saying, opposition parties, this is the problem. You know, this is what the data is saying. Or yeah, do your thing. Unfortunately, we used to have very strong unions. And when I talk about union, I talk about ASU, I talk about NLC, TUC. We used to have, but those unions have now been dissipated, you know, by the politicians, and they are very weak as nothing. So I mean, we need more advocates to wake up. I'm just sharing that with you. You begin to feed the opposition information. You know, you begin to appear at committees. You know, attend, you know, parliamentary meetings. Just to speak, alliance with other groups. You begin to write letters. You begin to write articles. Unfortunately, where Nigerians, you know, seem to want everybody to be is the high profile, which is public criticism, media advocacy, you know, which is what somebody like Sowore is doing, you know, public criticism, like what someone like VDM is doing. Sowore does a whole lot of that, and a whole lot of people also release information. You know, we have a whole lot of organizations that put information out there. If you follow statistics on data, sometimes they wear the cap of an advocate and they release some interesting data for you to know what's happening, you know, in the country. Letter writing, people begin to write letters. We don't have the culture of writing letters in Nigeria. Then protest action, you know, occupy Nigeria, you know, end bad governance, you know, Tinubu must go, IGP must go, you know, that is what we like. We like action in Nigeria. Marches, demonstrations, litigation. Litigation should have been a very, very potent force, a very, very potent force in the country, but unfortunately, the judiciary is compromised. We know that the judiciary is compromised. You know, very, very compromised. So even if you go to court, they're going to kick you out because you don't have local standing. you know, the judicial system in Nigeria is a joke, you know, where you cannot. So for example, there are a whole lot of things, there are a whole lot of judgments I've seen from the Supreme Court that I don't understand. I can't understand it, but there's no constitutional court for you to go to. And in South Africa, for example, you have a constitutional court that just sits on constitutional issues. So, for example, when they are talking about the recall process, I don't expect anybody to make noise. Just go to the constitutional court. What does the constitutional court says about this part of the constitution? Remember when we're also talking about, the Fubara issue in Rivers State. straight to the Constitutional Court. We don't even want to even speak too much. What's the position of the Constitution? Can the president sack or suspend an elected governor? We want it to go to the Constitutional Court because our laws are even ambiguous and difficult to understand. So there are loopholes that these politicians would use to bamboozle everybody. So there's a need for us to probably sanitize the hope of the common man, which is the judiciary, so that we can be able to see more pragmatic court rulings and the respect for the rule of law. In Nigeria, the law, the court says something, people do the opposite, no respect, no regard for the rule of law. You see the reason why we need solid advocates and solid policy influencers like those of you that are listening to me today. So let's look at quickly steps in a successful advocacy and policy influencing. I've taken so much time. I would show us this at the last. Let's just take it. Yeah. So I have few steps. The first step, I encourage anybody to go through it, ranking the decision makers. This is because remember that what we're talking about is strategy. Strategy, very important. Strategy is very important. Systematic, So you must first of all define the supporter of your advocacy demands. Who are the people that support my message? Who are the people that support what I'm talking about? You must identify them. Who are the people who, are potential supporters? Okay, I don't understand what this guy is saying, but I think it's making sense, Then who are the people who are undecided, the fence sitters? They are either here nor there. They are sitting on the fence. You must identify all of these people. Who are my likely opponents? Who are the people that will go against me the first? Who are the people that will say, I am too harsh? Who are the people that will say I should wake up in the morning and if I want to call Tinubu, I'll lie down and say, the most excellent chief honorable, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I have come with my advocacy. Who are those people that will say, I don't have respect? Who are those people that are my likely opponents? Who are those people that are my definite opponents? You must identify these guys. Because whether we like it or not, the moment you do not identify these guys, you will just be shooting blanks. You would never settle on a target. You will just be shooting blanks. So the idea behind this is that you need to flip your definite opponent to your likely opponent. You need to flip your likely opponent to a fence sitter. You need to flip the fence sitter to become someone who has the potential to support your demands. And someone who has the potential to support your demands, you need to flip that person to become your definite supporter. Right? Because you've been able to explain to them how this issue affects them, how it affects their children. They now say, oh, I didn't think about it this way. I didn't think about it this way. So you need to rank your decision makers, and understand where they are so that you begin to flip them one by one. The second thing that you need to do in these steps is you need to familiarize yourself with the corridors of power by learning about the rules. The executive director just threw a joke about the Natasha situation where, there's a rule that governs the house. You need to learn the rules. You don't have to be in the house to learn the rules. You need to familiarize yourself with the corridors of power. You don't go to the president, and begin to talk about commissioners or State House of Assembly. No, you don't do that. That you don't know what you're doing if you do that, right? You need to familiarize yourself with the corridors of power. You need to learn the rules. You need to learn the processes and the people that are most important to your issue. You cannot be going to the Federal Ministry of Health to advocate on education. You can't do that now. That's wrong. It's wrong on all levels. I've seen people who have gone on advocacies and they do not even know what they are talking about. The way I engage with people in the community is different from the way I engage with people in the offices. The way I engage with the people in the offices, the way I engage with the commissioner is different from the way I would engage with the president. The way I engage with the president is totally different. And now, for those of you who have your moral compass standing, let me also say that sometimes you need to take some very rugged approaches, depending on the severity of the issue, right? So, for example, and one of the things I say is, when you beat a child, you don't determine how the child will cry. And that's one of the things we try to do in Nigeria. when people talk about their pain points, you see people come out to say, are you the only one who is experiencing that? And that's one of the things that irritates me the most, about our people. Our people do not have the sense to understand that the fact that, someone is expressing himself from a place of pain and you do not feel the same way doesn't give you the right to condemn what the person is saying. The fact that the person chose to do it differently from how you do it doesn't give you the right to criticize the person. Understand, it's probably human nature. I speak for 5 minutes and I tell you every problem, but the moment I say that the president does not have sense, that's the only thing you take out of my conversation. So the only thing that most people took out of Raya's conversation, for example, on advocacy, was the fact that she was insulting the state. But no, Lagos smells. I would say I can't live in Lagos. Lagos is not a conducive place for me to live because it smells, and that's the truth, right? Now, people now switch it into ethnicity. She should go back to her place. But, Oga, her going back or not going back would not change the fact that Lagos smells. So these are the kind of things I'm talking about. We must understand that the fact that it doesn't affect me directly doesn't mean it doesn't affect another person. It's very, very important, guys. If there's anything you're going to take out of this session, is the fact that there's nobody who is a fake advocate. I would address this. No one is a fake advocate. See, we need more people to talk. We need more people to talk. There are some people who I may not believe in their message. I may not believe in what they are saying, but I will not come out to castigate them. Maybe in my little corner, when I have people, my trusted allies, we can critique and balance and say, oh, he should have done this better. He should have done this better. But you would never see me come out and say, this person is a fake advocate. There's nothing like that. Because people have the unalienable right to speak about the issues that concerns them the most. People must be able to be free to vent. As an adult, ask yourself, if you are being caged and you're put into a place and you can't talk, what happens in you is you begin to implode. And you see, the greatest disaster is when we have people that are imploding inside, because those are the people who will become suicide bombers. Those are the people who can just wake up, pick a gun and begin to shoot everybody because you told them to shut up when they wanted to talk. Am I justifying antisocial behavior? No. But I'm saying that people should be allowed to vent. People should be allowed to talk about their pains, because in talking about it, sometimes they find healing. In talking about it, sometimes they understand better. I've seen some people who had very uncommon advocacies, and when we had conversations, then I'll say, oh, yes, I understand better. So maybe next time, instead of me to say that, the president is a stupid man, I'd probably say the president, does not know what he's doing. There are people who we need to teach. There are people who still need to learn, and that's why they need to come to Polytracy so that they can learn and get better. Some of them are still in the process of learning, because the same way I did advocacy 5-8 years ago is different from the way I'll do advocacy now. The same way I did advocacy then is totally different from the way I'm going to do advocacy now. So it's very important that people familiarize themselves with the corridors of power and understand this. You have to classify the players, knowing your allies, knowing your opponents, and knowing your targets. Both secondary and primary targets needs to be targeted at the same time. It saves you time. It gives you more results. Let me be faster now. You have to inform and build relationships. Advocacy requires a series of formal and informal one-on-one contacts with decision makers and a steady stream of clear, concise backup information. Now, this is important, and I cannot overemphasize this. Because you need to build formal and informal relationships does not now mean that, I will now begin to see you with some people that, I don't expect to see you with, and also we need to understand as citizens that some people you call bad actually can play good roles. It's not absolute, right? Some people you call bad can play good roles. Some people you call bad may have been able to retrace their steps and feel bad about what they had done, and they'll be willing to help you in your advocacy, right? I would explain this again. So maybe this person has done something terrible in the times past, and you now see me engaging with that kind of a person. You are now quick to judge and say, Busayo shouldn't be talking to this kind of people. You know, I thought Busayo was an advocate. You know, why is he talking to this person? Now, the conversation I'm having with that person could probably have been that the person is saying to me, Busayo, these are the mistakes I made. I don't want you to make the same mistakes. Because experience is the best teacher, and the best place to learn about experience is when you learn from other people's experiences, not your own experiences. So I have seen people that have done quite, unpalatable things before, and I speak with them and they tell me, yes, this is where I made mistakes. I shouldn't have done things this way. And what I take from those conversations is the fact that I should be able to do things better, because I am now growing on the wings of the errors other people have made, so that I don't make the same error. So sometimes we have to be patient with people when we don't understand their moves. So long as those people are credible, so long as they are accountable, you can give them a benefit of doubt. But you that you are giving a benefit of doubt, you must be very careful. Your messaging must be very careful. You see, the one-on-one contacts with decision makers and a steady stream of clear, concise backup information. You understand? And let us don't be going through the corners. Let us know, let us know where you stand. It's very important. Finally, let me just show us dimensions of advocacy. The first dimension is when you're speaking for the beneficiaries and the marginalized people. The second level is when you are now speaking with the beneficiaries and the marginalized. The third and the highest level for me is when the beneficiaries and the marginalized people begin to speak for themselves. It's beautiful, and this is the place I get ecstatic about advocacy and policy influencing. The first level is I understand the problem, so I'm going to speak on behalf of community. But because I'm speaking on behalf of community, I don't stop there. I'm also building the capacity of community to speak for themselves, so that even if, quote and unquote, I get compromised, the community can take over from where I stop. Or if I get tired, because advocacy can take a long time, and I'm not interested, the community can take over because I have built their capacity to be able to continue on their own. Then the highest level is when the beneficiaries and the marginalized begin to speak for themselves. I don't have to be there. They are now able to stand on their own and speak truth to power. That's the highest dimension of advocacy, and that's the place I always want to have people. So my advocacy is first of all downwards before it goes upwards. It's downwards in the sense that I am taking community along. I'm not traveling alone. I am traveling with my comrades. I'm traveling with my people. I am traveling. I have built their capacity. I have shared the information I have with them so that they can be able to represent us if I'm not there. Now, the highest level for me is when they are able to do it on their own, without me being involved. I have tools for advocacy. You have the media, you have radio, newspaper, television, you have research, mobilizing and campaigning. We all know this: information dissemination, monitoring and evaluation. You have to come back after every advocacy to monitor. What did I do right? What should I have done better? What should I discard? We have litigation and lobbying. I don't have time to talk about all of this. Then you have protests and rallies. Yes, those of you who are afraid of protests are legitimate tools for advocacy. Very legitimate tools. Rallies are also legitimate tools for advocacy. The police has tried to stifle protests, and because they know that it is the right tool, for advocacy. It's very, very important, guys. So practical tips on advocacy: establish your agenda and goals. Listen well. Listen before you talk. Listen. Be prepared, but don't feel that you need to be an expert. You don't need to have all the knowledge, but have the basic knowledge. Recognize his or her accomplishment when you meet people. Learn how to break the ice. Recognize, their accomplishments. Lay out the problem. Lay out the problem. It's very important. Someone is playing with my slides. lay out the problem, the intended outcome, and the consequences of your advocacy. If we do not take, the problem is there are 20 million out of school children, the solution, the outcome, intended outcome is we want those children to be back at school. The consequence is if they do not go back to school, we're going to have more bandits, we're going to have more kidnappers, we're going to have more ritualists, parading everywhere. If the economy is not better, we're going to have people do a whole lot of antisocial things. That's the truth. Present your policy brief and be persuasive. Be persuasive about your policy brief is very important. You have to follow up on your advocacy is important. Remember that you are there to build relationships. Some relationships needs not to be built. Some needs to be burnt. There are some people you need to call out. So guys, I hope that with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you, on the need for you to become an advocate, own your voice, hone your voice, the need for you not to criticize any other advocate because people operate from the level of the understanding. And if they have a better knowledge and a better understanding, they will do better. I also hope that you've been able to learn that the fact that it doesn't affect you directly doesn't invalidate the pain of another person, who is deciding to voice out. I hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you. It was nice speaking to you guys once again. Thank you so much, Electoral College. Thank you so much, my ED. Thank you so much, Wumi and the team. I will take questions if you have questions. I hope you don't have questions because I've overshot my time, massively. But I hope you learned something. So let's take a few questions if there are.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Busayo, as always. Thank you. Thank you. We are always well loaded. And in summary, I think what we're able to learn is if you are to go into the challenge of calling out those in authority to make decisions and change policies, you must be educated in that field and particular subject matter. And you made mention of having education that refines you, and you have to be equipped with the things you called claps. You have to be credible, you have to be legitimate, you have to be ready to be accountable, you have to have the art of service, and must have the power to put on the advocacy cap. Thank you so much, as always, Mr. Busayo. And we'll go into the questions, and the first person here is a female. Yes, I think we are prioritizing them at this point. Idorenye Eyo. Yes, kindly unmute, please.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me.
Clearly, please should.
Thank you so much, Mr. Busayo. I really enjoyed the conversation. So, my question is simple. I mean, going by your definition of policy influencing, where you highlighted the behavior of different targeted stakeholders, I have a concern where I've identified my secondary influencer, and then the person promises to help influence the decision, but on a condition. So what tact can I apply? I mean, how do I reconcile that without compromising? Thank you.
Well, okay. Should I take all of the questions then respond to them, or how do you want us to go about it?
I think you can respond one after the other.
Okay, so that people don't ask questions we've responded to.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Great. Smart. Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. In my own personal experience, and one of the things I didn't lay so much emphasis on is the fact that nobody becomes an excellent advocate overnight. You have to learn from your own experience. You have to grow in that experience also. It's very important, for you to grow consistently in that experience. Right. But to your question, your secondary targets want something in return, The simple truth is you cannot give anything in return, because the moment you compromise the first time, you may continue to compromise back to back. Now, am I saying you should shut down the conversation and say, because you've requested or you've tried to do something, I shut down? No, I'm not going to advise that. That's also unwise. In building relationships with people, you must understand that, people would always want to be who they are. They would probably always want to play around. They would always, so for example, as a lady, imagine you're trying to, push for, an education policy to be, to be changed, for example, and your even primary or secondary target is saying, I need you to sleep with me so that I can be able to do this for you. You definitely know that the moment you give in to that person, your advocacy is flawed already, right? I mean, it's whether we like it or not, you definitely know. So what I always advise people to do is count the cost. If the cost if the cost impinges on your integrity, you don't have to be there. You don't have to be there. We've had people who had genuine intentions, they try to cut compromises and their hands got burnt in the process. Right? How many of you, I don't know how many of you remember the story of Farouk Lawan and Otedola, I mean, Farouk, left NYC, got into parliament 1999, solid guy, had integrity, was made, and little compromises here and there. His hands was caught in the cookie jar. Even if he says that, even if he says that his intention was to take the money and report, but okay, your hand is caught in the cookie jar. You cannot you cannot escape these things, especially when you're an advocate and when you're trying to do something right. For people who are thieves, we know them. Like the people who were stuffing dollars in their babariga, we know them. They are thieves. They don't have shame. But we hope that they will meet their match someday. You understand? We know those ones. They don't have shame. They don't have anything to lose. But you have so much to lose. So please, your integrity, I would tell you, for me, I would abort the mission, than to go ahead if I know that there are no other ways to go around this. For example, I have personal principles. I don't take money. I don't even take thank you for coming. I don't take hampers when I go on advocacies. It's real business. I don't take it. I don't take it. So you may set out rules that governs you. There are times when I've gone on advocacy with media people. The first time it happened to me, I told them we don't take money, and the media guys cornered me outside and they say, even if they collect, make we collect, and I apologize to them, right? I apologize to them. The next time I was in that kind of situation, what I said to them was, okay, I mean, for me, I'm not going to take, but you can speak to our media friends. For them, it may not be their own commitment, but for me, my commitment is money must not exchange hands. The best I do is if they present to me a bottle of water, if I feel like, I take it. If I don't feel like, sometimes I take it and I don't drink it. Right. So that's my own personal, personal things I do, to just protect myself. The next question, please.
Adeyemi, okay. Juliet, please unmute.
Can anybody hear me?
Loud and clear, Juliet. Go ahead, please.
All right. Good evening. Thank you for the wonderful session. But I want to find out something. At what point do you begin to draw a line between... I just want to be cleared.
At what point do you do what?
Begin to draw the line between advocacy and activism.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. I like this.
yes, exactly, please, sir.
All right. This is taking us to the dictionary. What's the dictionary meaning of activism? Can anybody help us check? The dictionary meaning of activism. Is anyone dropping it in the chat box? Okay, so activism is the policy or action of using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. I've told us what advocacy is. Activism is the policy or action of using vigorous campaigning. We said that campaigning, rallies, is a tool for advocacy, right? So, if you're bringing about political or social change, activism is a tool of advocacy to drive change. So advocacy is the umbrella, right? Advocacy is the umbrella. Activism is a tool to drive advocacy. So I don't know how activism has become a very terrible word, but activism is a tool. The same way litigation is a tool, it's the same way activism is a tool in advocacy, right? So there are people have abused this words here and there, and so I understand when it sounds as if it's a word that that doesn't, but people get, remember when I was telling you about the layers of advocacy, the low profile, middle profile, high profile. Activism is on the level of the high profile. You've negotiated, you've had handshake, nothing. You switch it to activism. So activists actually have a role they play in an advocacy. So, and that's why when I was talking and I was saying that for people who whose methodologies are different, don't criticize them. That's the best way they can express themselves. So long as it doesn't require violence. So long as it doesn't require violence. So long as nobody's telling you to go pick a gun, nobody's telling you to go hurt people, activism is a very, very legitimate tool for advocacy. So if you are called an advocate, your advocacy may not be as deep as activism, but we've seen people who have used the pen to be activists. A whole lot of the people who are leading Nigeria today were activists. The current president was an activist. A whole lot of them, so nobody should demonize activism. Activism is legitimate, it's recognized globally, activists are everywhere. I personally may not like the tonation or what we have turned activism to be, but you cannot be an all-rounded advocate without having that sense of activism. I hope I've been able to clear that part. I can see the chat box is buzzing. Someone is calling names. Someone says people like Deji, Sega, Link, all of these guys, they have they have legitimate, they have like I said, right? Like I said in this conversation, we must be open enough to understand that the fact that someone is not doing things how we think it should be done doesn't delegitimize what they are doing. It doesn't delegitimize it, and I'm not here to speak for anybody, but it doesn't there are people that have done things that I felt, you shouldn't have done this, should have done better, right? Someone said Sega Link. I can tell you, the first End SARS protests that happened in Abuja were less than 50. At the what is the name of that place in Abuja? Unity Fountain, were less than 50. Sega Link was there. He'd led the movement. Yes. Did he say some things that he wasn't supposed to? Absolutely yes. Are people angry with him about that? Absolutely yes. But it doesn't change the fact that he is an advocate. It doesn't change the fact that he is an activist, right? So we cannot define people's activism based on our sentiment. You know, it's we trying to impugn on their freedom of expression, which is wrong in itself, and that's part of the things we're trying to correct. I hope I'm able to. I hope you got that, Juliet. The next person, please. So we don't go above 7 o'clock.
Adeyemi, kindly unmute, please.
While Adeyemi is unmuted, I can see Olaoluwa. Yeah, I mean Olaoluwa. Yes. You can. Yes. Sorry, just give me a minute. Olaoluwa, yes. I mean, yes. You can criticize them. It's okay to. I mean, nobody is above criticism. You know, I mean, an activist criticizes other people too, so they can be criticized. But what I'm saying is, you know, we one of the things we shouldn't do is to impugn on their rights to express themselves. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can criticize anybody. You know, nobody's above criticism. Or you know how many times we've criticized the ED. They play. Yeah, so go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your contribution to the development of our intellectual capacity. I want to ask this question. I don't know if it's a question, but probably the way I will put it, I want you to help me digest it very well. Like, how will you advocate in a company where you are working? You are being paid, and you see so many things going wrong, and you want to advocate for a change in it, and you are not going to be fired. For example, there are some a step project that was asked to be passed down to the junior staffs and senior staffs. In the course of trying to, what they wanted was an honest opinion of everyone. But you get to realize that in course of trying to put your honest opinion, there are some other management staff that were saying, no, don't put this, don't put that. If you put it, it will look as if. And the question I asked them was, why did they say we should? Why did they send this thing down? It's just for them to get the honest opinion of people. How can we do that? Thank you.
Thank you so much. One of the things I established in this conversation is that the unions are dead. The unions have become.
We don't even have unions.
They are dead. For private sector, it may be difficult for you to, and it's
the government sector.
It's a government sector. Okay. Now, one of the biggest issues we have is the fact that we don't have formidable unions, and I think someone should start an advocacy on unions, because the unions are actually called pressure groups. You know, for example, in the UK, you have unions that are very solid. In fact, if you have a court case and if you are fired and you have a case, the union takes it up. All what you just need to do is to pay your union dues, right? The union takes it up. So I'm careful to respond to you based on the primitive way we do things in Nigeria, in the sense where you can get blacklisted because you are airing a differing opinion, you know, from the constituted authority. If I don't know what that rubbish means, you know, but when they want to be funny, they tell you constituted authority. So yeah, I mean, the unions are weak or almost non-existent or dead. And so that's a good, in fact, that's a good place, you know, for you to begin your advocacy. You know, it's a good place for you to, because ideally you should be able to go back to the union and report such a thing, and the union takes it up and is able to settle it. But you know, there's something that has gone wrong with the core of the Nigerian soul, you know, that has affected every sphere of human interaction and even our politics, you know, that everybody is just self-serving, looking over his shoulders and just wants to get everything to themselves. And it's terrible. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can say apart from the fact that, you know, you can start up an advocacy, get people of like minds, you know, grow your clout within that space, you know, and if you guys are able to succeed, you could even start another union, and that is based on various ethos that cannot be compromised in the long term, you know, and that's in more advanced democracies, nobody jokes with the union. Nobody jokes with the union, you know, in more advanced climes. But unfortunately, we're not there yet. The next question, please. We just have 5 minutes to go, so let's be a little bit faster.
Umaru, can you please unmute?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, hi, go ahead, please.
So let me be quick and on this one. First of all, I want to appreciate you, the presenter, for this wonderful presentation. Mine is rather a recommendation, not actually a question.
All right, so hit it. Let's hit it sharply.
I want to recommend the EC. This program actually gets, how do I put it, the targeted audience it needed. So what I'm suggesting is, why wouldn't the EC, the institution, made something like the processes of getting our parliamentarians like to be held accountable for their action and inactions in some national policies, like issue of recalling the processes involved in recalling a senator or a House of Reps, the process of holding them accountable to what they should do instead of just allowing them to be doing what they want, like without any consequences. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I think I know that the Electoral College is definitely working on that, and they've done a whole lot of work. I mean, as someone who looks at Electoral College from outside, I see their good work, you know, and I know that this is probably in the pipeline also. Thank you so much for that. Umar, I think Umar is the last question, so let's take you, Umar.
Umar just spoke.
Okay, Umar just spoke, so we don't have any other questions then, because
is Juliet?
She spoke the question.
I think yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So great. Thanks, guys. We don't have any other questions. So thank you guys for having me. You know, it's always a pleasure, you know, coming back, you know, to the Electoral College at every cohort to share this knowledge. But please, you would be doing me a great disservice if this conversation ends here. We don't want the conversation to end here. Please take it back to your community, you know, begin to work on it. I want to be able to see or hear good news from you guys of what you're using this information, you know, you have received, you know, quite freely. I want to be able to see what you're going to use it to do. And those of you who, you know, want to get into some, you know, really interesting stuff and you want to, you know, share with me, you know, I just dropped my LinkedIn account. So please hit me up on LinkedIn. You know, let's continue the conversation. If you want to start up something, let us know. If you need any strategic advice, we can definitely offer that. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Electoral College, once again. Have a blessed night, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bosaya. It's always a pleasure having you. I'll just allow the students on mute so they'll tell you thank you before we end the class.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
Very,
Thank
very
you
nice having
very
you,
much.
sir.
Thank
very much.
you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.